Busy at work, go to bed alone. My wife texted at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that felt like any other Tuesday in my 47 years of existence. Marla had been pulling these late nights for 3 weeks straight, and frankly, I was getting tired of microwaving my own dinner and watching Netflix alone like some divorced bachelor. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Briggs, and I manage logistics for a mid-sized shipping company in Minneapolis. I'm the guy who makes sure your Amazon packages don't end up in Timbuktu when they're supposed to go to Toledo. It's honest work, pays decent, and requires attention to detail, a skill that apparently translates well to marriage surveillance, as I was about to discover. The thing about logistics is that everything has to add up. Routes, timing, inventory, it all has to make sense. And lately Marla's schedule wasn't adding up worth a damn. She'd been working as an office administrator at Hendricks & Associates, a mid-tier accounting firm downtown, for 8 years. Never once had she worked past 7 p.m. Never once had she come home smelling like expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine. Never once had she been so protective of her phone that she took it to the bathroom with her. But there she was, 3 weeks into this new pattern, texting me to go to bed alone while she supposedly crunched numbers until God knows when. I sat in my recliner, staring at that text, and something cold settled in my stomach. The kind of cold you get when you realize the numbers don't add up, and somebody's been cooking the books. My son Aaron had been staying with us since dropping out of community college 6 months ago. At 20, he had all the ambition of a houseplant and twice the entitlement. Kid from my first marriage, back when I was young and stupid enough to think love conquered all financial incompatibility. His mother had remarried some tech executive in California, and Aaron bounced between our houses whenever he needed money or got tired of actual responsibility. "Dad, you okay?" Aaron wandered into the living room, holding a bowl of cereal, at 11 p.m., because apparently keeping normal hours was another life skill he'd missed. "Just tired," I said, not looking up from my phone. "Your stepmom's working late again." "Yeah, she's been putting in crazy hours lately, really dedicated to her job." Something in his tone made me look up. Aaron was staring at his cereal like it held the secrets of the universe, not meeting my eyes. "You talk to her about work much?" "Not really, just, she mentioned being stressed about some big project." Aaron shuffled back to his room, and I sat there in the dark, that cold feeling spreading through my chest like spilled coffee on important paperwork. The next morning, Marla was already gone when I woke up. No coffee made, no note, just the lingering scent of her perfume and an empty coffee mug in the sink. She'd been wearing more makeup lately, too, I realized. And that perfume, when had she started wearing perfume to work? At the warehouse, my best friend and foreman Bryce noticed I was distracted. "You look like somebody stole your lunch money," he said, leaning against my desk with his usual shit-eating grin. "Marla keeping you up nights?" "Something like that," I muttered, staring at shipping manifests without really seeing them. "Man, you're lucky. 8 years of marriage and she's still got energy to burn. My wife falls asleep during the evening news." If only it were that simple. That evening, I decided to test a theory. I came home early and found Aaron in the kitchen, actually cooking something that wasn't microwavable. "This is new," I said, watching him flip what appeared to be actual chicken breasts. "Marla's been teaching me. Says I need to learn life skills if I'm going to be staying here." "Marla's been teaching you to cook?" "Yeah, she's been really helpful lately. Giving me advice about college, career stuff, She thinks I have potential." The cold feeling was back, stronger this time. Marla had never shown much interest in Aaron before. Polite tolerance, sure, but actual investment in his future? That was new. "When does she do this teaching? She's been working pretty late." Aaron's hand froze on the spatula for just a second. "Oh, whenever. She's just being nice." That night, I lay in bed listening to Marla's breathing and thinking about logistics. About routes and timing and things that didn't add up. About 20-year-old sons who suddenly knew how to cook, and wives who suddenly worked 12-hour days. I made a decision that would change everything. The next day, I drove to an electronics store during my lunch break and bought a small wireless camera. The kind of thing paranoid homeowners use to catch package thieves, except I had bigger fish to fry. Installing a hidden camera in your wife's office requires the kind of planning I usually reserved for complex shipping routes. Hendricks & Associates was in a typical office building downtown, the kind with keycard access and security cameras in the lobby, but surprisingly lax internal security. I'd visited Marla's office exactly twice in 8 years of marriage, once for a Christmas party, once to bring her forgotten lunch. Both times I'd noticed the building's weaknesses, service entrances that stayed propped open during business hours, cleaning crews with universal keycards, and a security guard who spent more time on his phone than watching monitors. The plan was simple. Friday evening, I'd slip in during the cleaning crew's shift, plant the camera behind some books on Marla's shelf, and finally get answers to questions I didn't want to ask. I expected to catch her boss, Richard Hendricks, in some sleazy affair. The man was 55, recently divorced, and had the kind of predatory smile that made me want to shower after shaking his hand. It would hurt, sure, but at least it would make sense. What I got instead nearly ruined me. The camera transmitted directly to my phone through an app that sent me motion alerts. For 3 days, I watched normal office routine. Marla typing, answering phones, eating salad at her desk like she'd done for 8 years. Then Tuesday happened. The motion alert came at 7:23 p.m. I was in my truck outside a client's warehouse, checking the feed out of habit more than expectation. The office door opened, and Aaron walked in. My 20-year-old son, who was supposed to be at home playing video games, walked into my wife's office at 7:23 p.m. on a Tuesday night. My hands started shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Aaron didn't look around nervously like someone sneaking into a place he shouldn't be. He walked straight to Marla's desk with the confidence of someone who'd done this before, many times before. Marla looked up from her computer and smiled. Not the polite smile she usually gave Aaron at home, but something warmer, something that made my stomach turn. "You made it," she said, and even through the tiny camera speaker, I could hear the affection in her voice. "Wouldn't miss it," Aaron replied, settling into the chair across from her desk. "Dad thinks I'm at the library." "How's he been? Suspicious about anything?" "Nah, you know Dad. Head buried in his shipping schedules. He doesn't pay attention to anything else." They talked for 20 minutes about nothing and everything. Aaron's plans, Marla's frustrations with work, shared jokes I didn't understand. The easy conversation of two people who'd been talking regularly, privately, for God knows how long. But it was the way Marla looked at him that made me want to put my fist through the truck's windshield, like he was the most interesting person in the world, like he mattered in a way I apparently didn't anymore. When Aaron got up to leave, Marla stood too. They hugged, a long, lingering embrace that lasted about 10 seconds too long for a stepmother and stepson. "Same time Thursday?" Aaron asked. "I'll text you," Marla replied. I sat in that truck for 30 minutes after the feed went dark, staring at my phone and trying to process what I'd just witnessed. It wasn't physical, not yet anyway. But it was something worse. It was emotional intimacy. It was my wife connecting with my son in ways she hadn't connected with me in years. When I got home, they were both there. Aaron on the couch playing video games, Marla in the kitchen reheating Chinese takeout. "How was work?" I asked Marla, watching her face carefully. "Long day, quarterly reports are hurting me." She didn't even look up from the microwave. "How was your day?" "Fine. Aaron, what did you do today?" "Nothing much. Hung out, watched some Netflix." Both of them lied to my face with the casual ease of people who'd been practicing. That night, I lay awake listening to Marla's breathing and planning my next move. In logistics, when you discover a problem, you don't react emotionally. You gather more data, you build a complete picture before you act. Over the next week, I watched 5 more secret meetings through that camera. Each one lasted longer than the last. Each one looked more intimate than the last. Aaron brought coffee. Marla brought homemade cookies. They sat closer together, talked in lower voices, shared private jokes that made them both laugh like teenagers. But it was the text messages that finally broke me. Marla had an old phone she kept in her bedside drawer, her previous phone that she'd supposedly retired when she upgraded 6 months ago. Except she hadn't retired it. She'd been using it to communicate with Aaron. I found it Thursday morning after she left for work, still plugged into the charger behind a box of tissues. The message thread with Aaron went back 4 months. "You make me feel alive again," from Aaron, sent 3 weeks ago. "I never knew someone could understand me like this," from Marla, sent last Tuesday. "Can't wait to see you tonight. These meetings are the best part of my week." From Aaron, sent yesterday. 4 months. They'd been doing this for 4 months, and I'd been completely oblivious. I sat on the edge of our bed, holding that phone, and felt something fundamental shift inside me. The cold feeling was gone, replaced by something harder. Something that felt like the moment you realize someone's been stealing from your warehouse. And now, you have to decide what to do about it. In logistics, when someone violates your trust, you don't give them a second chance to screw you over. You cut them off, document everything, and make sure they can't hurt you again. Time to apply those same principles to my personal life. The beauty of working in logistics is that you learn to think systematically. Every problem has multiple moving parts, and you have to address them all simultaneously if you want to succeed. Marriage destruction, I discovered, follows similar principles. Step 1. Secure the assets. Friday morning, I visited our bank and moved half of our joint savings into a personal account Marla couldn't access. Legally, I was entitled to half, and I made sure to document everything properly. I also removed my name from Aaron's emergency contact list at his bank and canceled the credit card I'd been paying for his educational expenses. Step 2. Gather intelligence. I'd been watching their secret meetings for 2 weeks now, and the pattern was clear. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m., Aaron would show up at Marla's office. They'd talk, laugh, share increasingly intimate moments that made me want to throw my phone across the room. But I needed more than surveillance footage. I needed them to expose themselves. Step 3. Control the narrative. Saturday morning, I called Aaron into the kitchen for a conversation. "Son, we need to talk about your future." Aaron looked up from his cereal with the expression of someone who'd been dreading this conversation for months. "I've been thinking about your college situation," I continued, "and I've decided it's time for some tough love." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm cutting you off. No more credit card, no more rent money, no more free ride. You're 20 years old, and it's time to figure out what you want to do with your life." Aaron's spoon clattered into his bowl. "Dad, you can't be serious. I'm still figuring things out." "You've been figuring things out for 2 years now. Time to start doing instead of figuring." "But I don't have anywhere to go." "Sure you do. Your mother's place in California. Or you could get a job and your own apartment. Lots of options for a motivated young man." Aaron's face went through several emotions: shock, anger, and finally something that looked like panic. Can I talk to Marla about this? Maybe she could convince you to..." "Marla doesn't get a vote in decisions about my son," I said, watching his reaction carefully. "But you're welcome to discuss it with her if you think it'll help." The panic in his eyes confirmed what I'd suspected. This wasn't just emotional intimacy anymore. Aaron was depending on Marla for more than just conversation. That evening, I pretended to go to bed early while actually monitoring the camera feed on my phone. Sure enough, Aaron's emergency meeting with Marla was more intense than usual. "He's cutting me off completely," Aaron said, pacing around her office like a caged animal. "No money, no credit card, nothing." "He can't do that," Marla replied, but she sounded uncertain. "He absolutely can do that. It's his money." Marla stood up and moved closer to Aaron. Too close. Close enough that when she put her hand on his arm to comfort him, it looked like something more than stepmother sympathy. "We'll figure something out," she said softly. "I won't let him ruin this for us." "What if he finds out about our meetings?" "He won't. Leon doesn't pay attention to anything that doesn't involve shipping schedules." "But what if he does?" Marla was quiet for a long moment, her hand still on Aaron's arm. "Then we'll deal with it. Together." I turned off the phone and lay in the dark, listening to Marla's car pull into the driveway 40 minutes later. When she slipped into bed beside me, I pretended to be asleep. "Leon?" she whispered. I didn't respond. "Leon, I know you're awake." I rolled over to face her. "Long day at work?" "We need to talk about Aaron." "What about him?" "Cutting him off completely seems harsh. He's still finding himself." "He's 20 years old, Marla. When I was 20, I was working 2 jobs and supporting myself. Times are different now. Kids need more support. Kids need structure and consequences. Aaron's been coasting for 2 years." Marla was quiet for several seconds. When she spoke again, her voice had an edge I'd never heard before. "What if I helped him out? Just temporarily, until he gets on his feet?" "With what money?" "I have some savings." "Your savings are our savings, Marla. We're married." "So I don't get a say in how we spend our money?" "You get a say in how we spend money on us. Aaron isn't us. He's my responsibility, and I'm handling it." Marla rolled away from me without another word, but I could feel the anger radiating off her like heat from a furnace. Sunday morning, I implemented step 4. Force their hand. "I've been thinking," I announced over breakfast, "maybe we should plan a family vacation. Just the 3 of us. You, me, and Jenny." Jenny, my 13-year-old daughter with Marla, looked up from her pancakes with genuine excitement. "Really? Where?" "Somewhere warm, maybe Florida. We could rent a house on the beach for a week." "What about Aaron?" Marla asked carefully. "Aaron's an adult. He can take care of himself for a week." "But he's family too." "Aaron's my son, but he's not your responsibility. Besides, he'll probably be too busy looking for a job to join us anyway." The look that passed between Marla and Aaron across the breakfast table was worth 1,000 surveillance videos. Pure panic, mixed with something that looked almost like grief. After breakfast, I found an excuse to run errands and monitored my phone from the hardware store parking lot. Sure enough, within an hour, Aaron was at Marla's office for an emergency Sunday meeting. "He's planning a vacation without you," Marla said, and I could hear the distress in her voice even through the tiny speaker. "He's trying to separate us," Aaron replied. "He knows something. He can't know anything. We've been careful." "Then why is he acting like this?" Marla moved around her desk to where Aaron was sitting. This time, she didn't just put her hand on his arm. She cupped his face with both hands, forcing him to look at her. "Listen to me," she said, and her voice was fierce with emotion. "I'm not going to let him destroy what we have. We'll find a way to be together." "Together how? I can't even afford my own apartment now." "Then you'll stay with me." "What about Leon?" Marla was quiet for a long moment, her hands still on Aaron's face. "Let me worry about Leon." I turned off the phone and sat in my truck, staring at the hardware store without seeing it. They just crossed a line I'd hoped they wouldn't cross. This wasn't just emotional intimacy anymore. They were making plans. Plans that involved being together without me. Time for the final phase of the operation. So Monday morning, I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. The first was to my lawyer, Dave Morrison, who'd handled my divorce from Aaron's mother 15 years ago. "Leon, good to hear from you. What can I do for you?" "I need to discuss divorce proceedings and evidence gathering." There was a pause. "I'm sorry to hear that. What's the situation?" "Marla's having an emotional affair. I have surveillance footage and text messages." "Physical evidence is good. How do you want to proceed?" "Carefully. I want to make sure I protect my interests and my daughter's custody situation." "Understood. Can you come in this afternoon?" The second call was to HR at Hendricks & Associates. I used a voice modifier app on my phone and reported inappropriate after-hours meetings between an employee and a young man who isn't her husband. "Can you be more specific about the nature of these meetings?" the HR representative asked. "Private conversations, physical contact, use of company facilities for personal relationships. I'd suggest reviewing security footage from the past month." "We'll look into it. Can I get your name?" "I'd prefer to remain anonymous, but you might want to check Marla Briggs' office, evenings around 7:30 p.m. The third call was to Aaron. "Dad, what's up?" "I wanted to give you a heads up. I've decided to accelerate your move-out timeline." "What do you mean?" "I mean you have until Friday to find somewhere else to live." "Friday? Dad, that's impossible." "Nothing's impossible, son. Just expensive. Maybe Marla can help you figure something out." The silence on the other end of the line lasted so long I thought he'd hung up. "Why are you doing this to me?" Aaron finally asked, and for the first time in months, he sounded like the little boy I used to read bedtime stories to. "I'm not doing anything to you, Aaron. I'm doing something for you. You need to learn to stand on your own 2 feet." "But I don't have any money. I don't have a job. I don't have anywhere to go." "Then I guess you better start making some calls." That evening, I watched their emergency meeting through the camera feed while sitting in my recliner, drinking a beer and pretending to watch the news. Aaron was more agitated than I'd ever seen him, pacing around Marla's office like a trapped animal. 5 days, he kept saying. He gave me 5 days. Calm down, Marla said, but she didn't sound calm herself. "We'll figure this out." "How?" "I don't have any money, and now HR is asking questions about why I've been visiting the building after hours." That stopped Marla cold. "What questions?" "Security called me this afternoon, asked about my relationship to you and why I've been coming to your office." "What did you tell them?" "I said you were helping me with career advice, but they seemed suspicious." Marla sank into her chair, and for the first time since this whole thing started, she looked genuinely scared. "Someone knows," she said quietly. "You think it's Dad?" "I don't know, but the timing is too convenient to be coincidence." They talked for another hour, their voices getting progressively more desperate as they tried to figure out their next move. Finally, Marla made a decision that sealed both their fates. "Pack your things," she said. "You're coming to stay with me." "At the house? With Dad there?" "No. I'll get us a hotel room until we can figure out something more permanent." "What about your marriage?" Marla was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. "My marriage has been over for years. I just didn't realize it until I met someone who actually cares about what I think and feel." "But what if Dad fights the divorce? What if he tries to take Jenny?" "Let him try. I have rights too." I turned off the phone and finished my beer, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. They'd made their choice. Now I'd make mine. The next morning, Marla was already gone when I woke up. No coffee, no note, no explanation. Just an empty space in the bed and the lingering scent of her perfume. Aaron's room was empty too. Bed unmade, clothes scattered on the floor, but his important stuff. Laptop, gaming console, the few things he actually cared about, were gone. I found the note on the kitchen counter, written in Marla's careful handwriting. Leon, I need some time to think about our marriage and what I want from my life. Aaron and I have gone somewhere we can talk without interruption. I'll call you in a few days when I'm ready to discuss our future. Please don't try to contact me until then. Marla. I read the note 3 times, then folded it carefully and put it in my wallet. Evidence for the divorce proceedings. Then I called Dave Morrison. They ran, I told him. Left together this morning. That actually works in our favor, Dave said. Abandonment of the marital home, taking your minor stepson with her. It doesn't look good for her custody case. What's our next move? File for divorce immediately. Cite abandonment and inappropriate relationship with your son. The surveillance footage will support our claims. And Jenny? With Marla gone, and you maintaining the family home, temporary custody should go to you by default. We'll make it permanent in the divorce settlement. That afternoon, I picked Jenny up from school and took her for ice cream. She deserved to hear the truth from me before she heard lies from someone else. Dad, where's Mom? She asked as we sat in the parking lot outside Dairy Queen. She didn't answer her phone this morning. Your mom and Aaron have gone away for a while, I said carefully. They're figuring some things out. What kind of things? Adult things, complicated things. Jenny was quiet for a long moment, stirring her ice cream into soup. Are you and Mom getting divorced? The question hit me like a punch to the stomach, but I managed to keep my voice steady. I don't know yet, sweetheart, but whatever happens, you and I are going to be okay, I promise. Is it because of Aaron? I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and realized she was smarter than any of us had given her credit for. What makes you ask that? Mom's been acting weird around him lately, like paying attention to him in ways she never did before, and Aaron's been acting like he knows secrets or something. You noticed that? I notice everything, Dad. I just don't usually say anything. I reached across the table and took her hand. Whatever happens between your mom and me, it's not your fault, and it's not really Aaron's fault either. Sometimes adults make bad choices, and other adults have to deal with the consequences. Are you mad at them? I thought about that question for a long time. I'm disappointed, I finally said, and hurt, but mostly I'm just sad that things had to end this way. That evening, alone in the house for the first time in 8 years, I sat in my recliner and planned the final phase of my revenge. The call came on Thursday morning while I was reviewing shipping manifests at work. Unknown number, but I recognized Marla's voice immediately. Leon, we need to talk. Do we? Your note said you'd call when you were ready to discuss our future. I assumed that meant you'd made some decisions. I have made decisions. That's why I'm calling. I'm listening. There was a long pause, filled with the sound of traffic in the background. I want a divorce, she said finally. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What did you expect, Marla? Tears? Begging? You left our home to shack up with my son. I think we're past the point of marriage counseling. It's not what you think. Really? Then explain it to me. Another pause, longer this time. Aaron and I, we have a connection, something real, something I haven't felt in years. A connection. He understands me in ways you never did. He listens when I talk, cares about my thoughts and feelings. He makes me feel alive again. He's 20 years old, Marla. Age is just a number. Age is a lot more than just a number, but let's skip the philosophy lecture. What do you want? Fair division of assets, shared custody of Jenny, and I want you to stop poisoning her against me. I haven't said a word against you to Jenny, but she's not stupid. She figured out something was wrong all by herself. What did you tell her? The truth, that you and Aaron went away together to figure things out. You had no right. I had every right. She's my daughter too, and she deserves honesty. I could hear voices in the background, and one of them sounded like Aaron. Where are you staying? I asked. That's not your business. It is if you want to see Jenny. Court-supervised visitation requires an address. Court-supervised? Leon, you can't be serious. You abandoned your home and your daughter to run away with my son. What did you think was going to happen? The conversation devolved from there, with Marla alternating between anger and attempts at manipulation. She tried guilt. How can you keep me from my daughter? Logic. This doesn't have to be ugly. And finally, threats. I'll fight you for everything. I let her talk herself out, then delivered the news that would end this once and for all. Marla, there's something you should know. I've been recording your after-hours meetings with Aaron for the past month. Silence. I have footage of every conversation, every intimate moment, every plan you made together. I also have the text messages from your old phone. More silence. Your HR department has already started their investigation based on an anonymous tip about inappropriate use of company facilities. I'm guessing they'll want to review that footage as part of their inquiry. When Marla finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. You bastard! I'm the bastard! I'm not the one who betrayed my marriage vows with my husband's son. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. How was it supposed to happen, Marla? You were going to carry on secret meetings indefinitely, maybe escalate to a physical relationship while still married to me. Aaron needed someone who believed in him. Aaron needed a father, not a lover, but you were too selfish to see the difference. The line went quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. What do you want? She finally asked. Nothing from you. The divorce papers are already filed. Dave Morrison is handling everything. You'll be served within the week. And Aaron? Aaron made his choice. He chose you over his relationship with me. Now he gets to live with the consequences. He's your son. He was my son. Now he's your problem. I hung up and sat in my office, staring at shipping schedules and trying to process the fact that my marriage was officially over. The next call came from Aaron 2 hours later. Dad, please, we need to talk. I don't think we do, son. I know you're angry, but if you'd just let me explain. Explain what? That you've been having secret meetings with my wife for 4 months? That you've been lying to my face every day? That you convinced her to leave her marriage and her daughter to run away with you? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Aaron? She understood me. She made me feel like I mattered. You did matter. You were my son. Were? The word hung in the air between us like smoke from a house fire. You made your choice, Aaron. You chose her over me, over your family, over any chance of a relationship with your father. Dad, please. I made a mistake. No, son. You made a series of choices, and now you get to live with them. Where am I supposed to go? Marla lost her job because of the HR investigation. We don't have any money. That's not my problem anymore. I'm your son. My son wouldn't have betrayed me like this. My son wouldn't have destroyed his family for a middle-aged woman going through a midlife crisis. Aaron was crying now, and despite everything, it still hurt to hear. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did go this far, and now we all have to live with the consequences. Can't we work this out, as a family? Aaron, there is no family anymore. You and Marla destroyed that when you decided your feelings were more important than everyone else's. I hung up and turned off my phone. That evening, I picked Jenny up from school and took her home to a house that felt bigger and emptier than it ever had before. Dad? She said as we sat at the kitchen table, eating pizza because I hadn't figured out how to cook for 2 people yet. Yes, sweetheart? Are Mom and Aaron ever coming back? I looked at my 13-year-old daughter and realized she was the only family I had left that hadn't betrayed me. I don't think so, honey, but that's okay. We're going to be fine. Just the 2 of us. Promise? Promise. 3 months later, the divorce was final. Marla got supervised visitation with Jenny every other weekend, half the house equity and half our savings. I got full custody, the house, and the satisfaction of knowing I'd handled the situation exactly the way it deserved to be handled. Aaron tried to contact me twice more, once through my brother, once through a letter that arrived on my birthday. I threw the letter away without reading it and told my brother that I didn't have a son named Aaron anymore. The last I heard, Marla and Aaron had moved to a different state, trying to start over somewhere nobody knew their story. Good luck to them. They deserved each other. As for me, I learned something valuable about logistics that I'd never considered before. Sometimes the most efficient route involves cutting your losses and starting over with a lighter load. Jenny and I are doing fine. Better than fine, actually. Turns out when you remove the toxic elements from a system, everything else runs a lot smoother. And every time I'm tempted to feel sorry for myself, I remember that text message. Busy at work, go to bed alone. Best thing that ever happened to me, as it turned out, because it led me to discover the truth about the people I'd been sharing my life with, and gave me the chance to build something better with the one person who actually deserved my trust. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about removing them from your life so completely that they can't hurt you anymore. That's the real logistics of revenge. Efficient elimination of problematic variables.